Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, July 19th, and this is another episode of Conscious Conversations. Today, we are focused on self-image and do you really have a brand? So we're just going to take a few moments to be able to post this on some of the other portions of our pages, both to our closed group for those in our coaching community, as well as on my personal page. If you would, go ahead and say hello. Would love to see who's with us this morning. Go ahead and put that in the comments section, and we will get started in just a minute. So looking ahead and thinking about your mornings. First of all, I believe that this is 1 month in. I think we're on the 4th episode. 4th or 5th, Shantae will let me know. For those of you that have been joining me every Tuesday morning, thank you so much. Would love to get feedback from you in terms of how these conversations might be helpful, if there are particular topics that you're looking for. As always, we have made it very clear that this was born out of a lot of the conversations that have happened with the recession. It seems that I come on to weekly calls to the public usually when something happens, in the sense of COVID. That was an opportunity where Reedy and Red kind of was emerged and came out, became more than 300 episodes where we discussed anything about mindset, motivation, skills, and action, kind of the pillars of the way that I function through my business. And then this really, on the opposite side of COVID, with a bit of a shifting in the market, both from a real estate perspective as well as from a stock perspective. Quite often, many of you have reached out to talk about wealth, or you've been curious about what's going on, or how to communicate some of these topics to your customers, to your clients, to make sure that not only that you feel safe and confident about what you do, but also about making sure that your clients and your customers feel safe as well. So one of the things that's nobody's saying hello to me. Why isn't anybody saying hello? Is really understanding this conversation around self-image and around branding. There is a course that we are working on, something that is called the Care Company course, which is an acronym focused on client acquisition, client retention, and client experience. So that's the CACRCE. So Care, a Care Company, which is something that we'll have available for you here soon. We're in the process of filming and editing at the moment. But one of the things about this was a lot of people might think that they have a brand, when really all that they have is a logo. You went to Fiverr, or maybe you went to a local graphic designer and you had a graphic designed, a brand logo designed, but do you actually have a brand? And so we have to take that step a little bit further back in understanding what branding is, understanding what brand marketing is comparatively to just direct marketing, and then even actually understanding what self-image is, right? So taking a look at some of the things that we have here is to understand what ego is. Now, for a long time, I thought that ego just meant that you were full of yourself, or that you thought a lot of yourself, and there, of course, were times where I probably wasn't the most humble, but most of the time I thought that I was humble and was like, oh, good, I don't have to worry too much about ego. But ego, from the Latin of ego, yep, there's me with that etymology again, right? Ego from the Latin is talking about I, in the sense of I separate from things that I'm comparing myself to, right? And so often from a conscious place, and talking about consciousness, and any of you on a spiritual journey, right, there are two kinds of self. So there is the lower self, lower S self, and then the higher self with a capital self. So understanding from a planes of consciousness, the things that make us separate, our physical attributes, our psyche, our personality, as well as our astral plane, right? I'm a Libra, you're a Leo, that's why you act a certain way, or that's why I act a certain way, right? These are the things that make us different from each other. But when we go down to the root of it, in terms of our higher self, the thing that connects all of us together, right? The fact that the energy in all of the atoms and things that have been created, matter that has been created, can neither be created nor destroyed, right? So this is where, when people talk about the Big Bang, all of those things that are out in the stars and space are exactly the same kinds of carbon and nitrogen and oxygen that is inside of you and me. That's kind of that idea with we've seen all of these images from the new telescope. It's brought new conversation about, or brought old conversation anew, in understanding just the fact that everything that is out in the universe is actually inside of your body. Your body in and of itself is a universe. Now, not to be too much of a high-performance hippie on that conversation, but really it's taking itself to the root of understanding that after we get through the layers of what make you and I different, at its core is what makes us the same. And this is why when we watch a movie, we can resemble that resonance, that narrative resonance of who that main character is. It's the thing that makes us want to root for them and want them to win. We see it in politics in terms of elected officials. We see it in the movie stars or the reality television people that you might have an affinity for, or the role models that you have in your industry, right? There's something about their story that you either feel speaks to you for either something that you already possess or something that you would like to become, right? And that is at its root core the thing that makes us all the same. So from a branding perspective, it is very much in alignment with what you identify as your self-image. So self-image, of course, is the way that you have constructed your view of yourself in this world. It's the thing that makes you your own little island, right? The things that are unique to you. And whether you know it or not, part of this has been done consciously, and part of this has been done subconsciously. There are things that you have made choices through the people that you've followed or the influences that you've had both through media, through books, mentors, inspirations, the popular kid, your crush, whomever it might be. Those things have been part of the construction of your self-image. But self-image could also have been due to the way that your parents spoke to you, or the way that you were rejected, or the way that things didn't go as planned, have also been stories that you've told yourself or you've sought evidence to support that narrative, right? This is where we talked about last week when we were talking about the morning routine of morning affirmations, whether they're positive or negative. I am not a morning person. Okay, well, that's a negative affirmation, and my brain is going to actively seek evidence that supports that I am not a morning person. Well, it's the same thing that can happen if I say I'm not pretty, or I'm not smart, or I'm not successful, or I can't do anything by myself. Those are negative affirmations that I'm going to actively seek evidence. But one of the most important things about branding is you and I can spend an unbelievable amount of time trying to craft what we believe our brand is going to be. But what I'd like to make clear here is that your branding is the reflection of your self-image back to you. You are not going to be able to determine what your brand is. Your customers, your clients, the world are going to be able to tell you what your brand is. All that you can do is set it up as best as possible. Now, yes, I'm talking both for you as a person, and I'm talking for you as a professional, as well as you as a business. So, for the person who doesn't think that they're an asshole, yet the world keeps telling you that you're an asshole, that is where self-image and brand have a difference of elision, right? And this is where people will go, oh, well, they just don't know me enough. Okay, that's, again, a perfect example of where your self-image, self-talk, what you've constructed to yourself, is somehow in dissonance with the way that you are projecting that self-image to the world and then having it fed back to you. The reason that I'm using you as an example is because you are a brand, right? The way that I think of Nashville being a geographic location on the world, of where if you go to Nashville, some people will be like, oh, I love Nashville, and here are all of the reasons why, right? That is a name associated with a geographic coordinate on memories that that person has, or an environment that that person has created. Well, your name, right, the same thing as Lady Gaga, or the same thing as Donald Trump, or the same thing as Patricia Dooley, or Chris Mitchell, or Michael Reedy, that is in someone's brain, very much like the geographic coordinates that Nashville is on the world. Your name is going to be geographic coordinates in their brain. That's going to trigger memories, emotions, certain things with your name. So, oh, there's that person. Oh, that person's coming to the party. Oh, man, they are so much fun, right? That is where that name association is placed in my brain of certain things that are associated with that individual. They're fun, they're loving, they are grounded. And so there was an interesting tool that I did probably about a week and a half ago where I asked a few of you on my personal page about words that you have associated with my brand, whether it's me personally or me professionally. And many of you, thank you for giving feedback. You gave wonderful words that were there. And yet what was fascinating about that was the words that you had associated with me were not necessarily the words that I was actively trying to get reflected back to me. They were all great words. They were words that were wonderful, and I felt great about those things in terms of some of them. But if I'm actively working towards making sure that there are certain words that I want associated with either myself personally or professionally, then the question becomes, from a branding perspective, what is the narrative that we are telling? And now most of you that are on here are real estate agents. Most of you on here are solopreneurs, which means that more often than not, the brand is associated with you and your work ethic. You've not necessarily scaled your business yet to where the brand is a cohesive company that is represented by 30, 50, 250, 500 plus people, right? And so there is this parallel of who you are as a person, who you are as a professional, and what your brand stands for. So what I'd like to ask you to do now in the comment section, and I know some of you were with me during the care call last week, and so this might be redundant for you, but maybe you formulated some different words, as well as, quite frankly, this is words associated with your brand, so it doesn't hurt doing it more than once. What I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to put words in the comment section of this video of words that you want to be associated with, either you as a person, you as a professional, or your company, words that you want associated. Go ahead and do that for me now while I read some of these comments. Like Christopher Mitchell says, I feel like I don't have enough coffee for this conversation. I know, that's why I just dipped my toe in the consciousness conversation of spiritual awakening. Don't worry, we'll make sure that we plan a retreat over a weekend. That way there'll be plenty of time for you to be able to absorb. In the interim, though, I feel like it's probably a pretty good conversation for us to be having about you and your brand. Okay, so J9 says, who you work with matters. Absolutely. Chris is in a business to where when people hire him, they are hiring him in hopes to win. Don't we all? But truly, in his field, it's very much success looks like winning or losing in terms of races, elections, and other things. Kelly Fitton says compassionate. She wants that word associated with her as an individual. I know firsthand that she wants that to be the words that are associated to her as a professional as well for the people who work with her. Love that. And so looking at the answers and things that we have, this would be the question that is, as you are thinking about these words, do these words show up in your marketing material? Does the word compassion show up in your marketing material? Does the word winning show up in your marketing material? Does the hook, J9, of who you work with matters, does that show up in your marketing material? And now here's the funny thing, right? Many of you will say, oh yeah, it's in my sales packet, or it's in my brochure, or it's in my listing presentation. But if I've not hired you, or if I've not pulled the trigger yet to even sit down at a coffee table with you, what is the kind of marketing that I am seeing? Again, because many of you here are real estate agents and it's easy to use this as an example, if I see your photo and a picture of a house and it says just listed, just sold, under contract, is that your brand? Not necessarily, right? So the difference between brand marketing and direct marketing. Brand marketing is the story that I'm telling. The story that is there associated with our business or me as a human being, right? Why you would want me in your world, why you would want me to be your coach, why you would want to partner with our business. Those are the things that are going to be a part of our branding. And so doing an audit, and we did an audit of our own branding, right? Some of the words that we got were diversity, inclusivity, authenticity, grounded, zen, consciousness, right? And a lot of those words, if you went and you looked at some of the things that we have done, they are absolutely in alignment with that, right? We just finished a 6-part series that's called The Inner View, which is conscious conversations with individuals talking about the holistic approach of life and business and partnering with a coach through that process. Tuesday mornings, we have a show that's called Conscious Conversations, right? An awakening to the things that more often than not we kind of either move through life in cruise control, or we think about it, but we don't spend that much time on it. In addition to that, right, you've heard me talk about a life of intention. We talk about a life by design. We talk about holistic coaching, right? There's a lot of words that are associated with the words that are being fed back to us. And so if all I said was, you need a coach, you need a coach, you need a coach, well, what is that doing to make anybody believe that I am the person for them to partner with, or that we as an organization are who they should hire from a training perspective? And so this is where, as an alignment of the things that we are doing and the conversations that we're having, is taking a really deep dive around, do I have a brand or do I have a logo? So thinking about some of your favorite companies, well, let me ask you that. What's a favorite company that you have? And it could be services, it could be products, it could be a vehicle, it could be a type of clothing, it could be a movie director, anything. Give me an example of a company that you are very passionate about. Preferably not the one that you run, because you're a little biased. Okay, so Doug put Louis Vuitton. So looking at, Louis, then it becomes the question of what is Louis's brand? Louis has associated itself with luxury. It has associated itself with customer service, right? And I know from a personal story, so, Doug had a bag from Louis a few years ago, and the soft leather of the handle kept wearing. And so they actually replaced that bag 3 times. Brand new bag, right? So 2 times, and then the 3rd time he just got a completely different bag. All of those times they never charged him any difference because it was a malfunction of their leather as it was reacting to the environment and to the wear and tear, not even wear and tear, but just the use of the handbag. And so, that level of customer service was, we spare no expense. In addition to that, obviously, they take extreme care of how their associates are in the store. They take care of the store itself, the experience of purchasing a bag and wrapping the bag, putting it in a dust bag, putting it in a box, putting that box in a bag. All of these things have been layers, which, do you think that they just sat there and said, our bag is good enough? Why do you need any of that other stuff? Why doesn't it just stand alone? Shouldn't we just be able to stand on the quality of our bag alone? So this is where, when we look at from a microscopic level, we're able to see from a brand that the words that they want associated with themselves is also done through customer experience. It's done through customer retention, right? It's done through customer acquisition. They're really intentional about making sure that that narrative of being luxury, of sparing no expense, of the customer is first in this experience, is through every step of the process. It's the same thing with you. If you want to be a compassionate person, you have to be compassionate consistently. You don't get to just be compassionate with the people that you think are worth compassion, right? And that's not specifically to Kelly. That was just the word that popped up, right? So thinking about this is where so often, if you want a brand to mean something, but maybe the way that you are projecting that brand is not consistent. Again, my own personal brand, right? We're looking at certain things and we're looking to upgrade certain things. We're looking to refine certain things. So if I wanted words like polished and refined and intelligent and thought leader, well, what are the activities that we're doing that give that example? What does our marketing material look like that is in alignment with those words? How is our storytelling in alignment with those words? And if there is a discrepancy, then how can we go back and clean that up, right? Looking at some of the things that you've put here, this is where we become not necessarily obsessive, right? So this is that teetering balance, why I introduced that ego element at the beginning of the conversation. Your self-image will be your self-image whether you're intentional about it or not. And so there is this element of like, oh, if you care that much about how you present yourself to the world, or if you care that much about how the world perceives you, then you're full of yourself. The world is going to perceive you any which way, because we all possess a supercomputer that is processing information very, very quickly. And whether we intend to do it or not, we make judgments. Now, those don't necessarily have to be malicious judgments or bad judgments, but in our world, from the very root of it, we are constantly assessing situations very, very quickly, going, is this a situation that I feel safe in or that I feel threatened in, right? That is our Ice Age mentality, right? Moving past the Neanderthal and moving into present day, right, we also look at this in terms of, is this a group of people that are in alignment with my values and the things that are important to me? Or is this a group of people that are not necessarily going to be in alignment? Taking that a step further, is this from a selfish perspective, is this friendship, relationship, conversation serving me, or is it not serving me, right? So if we're already making those quick assessments on our environment and the way that we interact with the outside world, then why would we not take any intention about the way that we are presenting ourselves to the world, right? And so there's varying degrees of this. Do I brush my teeth or do I not brush my teeth? Well, I don't want to offend anybody within a 10-foot radius of myself, so I'm going to brush my teeth. Do I do my hair or do I not do my hair? Well, it depends, quite frankly, on the situation and the environment. Do I get dressed up? Do I not get dressed up? Well, it depends on if you're in a nudist colony or not, right? Like, there are varying degrees of this, but it also is from the perspective of, do I handwrite a thank you card, or do I have a templated thank you card that is just printed on the printer? And then taking it a step further, is the message printed, but then I hand sign the thank you card, or is it just all printed on the computer, right? My dentist sends me a thank you card that was printed on the computer and it was signed by some cursive font on the computer. Do I think that that's a thank you card? Not really. I think that's an extra step just to remind me that they are my dentist, right? So there are varying degrees of when we're looking at in terms of our self-image and branding. So thinking about these activities, thinking about the way that you move through life, is how do I want to be perceived by others? How do I want my business to be perceived by others? But more importantly, how do I want to make sure that I am moving through life, making sure that I am doing what I say and saying what I do, right? I'm also being intentional that if I have certain values that are associated with myself, with my image, with the way that I move through life, I need to make sure that my activities are not compromising those things. And so as a coach, oftentimes I get a lot of things like, I want to break into the luxury market. Okay, so this is a perfect example of when someone says they want to break into the luxury market. There's a very fine line between I'm wanting to run into a circle of individuals to where the only value that they bring me is that they have expendable income and that I can profit, and the only thing that I can bring them is basically nothing. Right? There's no interruption there. I didn't lose signal. Many people that just naturally say to me, or not even naturally, but they just optimistically say they want to break into the luxury market, without understanding the needs of that market, without understanding the conversations of that market, without understanding the level of craftsmanship and excellence that is expected at that price point. But just the matter of, I'm a human being, I'm in this industry, I should make 10 times more per paycheck than I'm doing right now, but I don't want to change anything about myself. I don't want to grow any on myself. I do not want to upgrade my presentation. I don't want to do any of those things. I should be enough. Well, best of luck. You might be able to get a certain element of that, but you're not going to consistently stay in that space, right? And so this is obviously where we teeter very, very fine line between understanding higher self and our ego self, right? The I that I'm discussing. And today is really just taking an audit on, are my activities in alignment with the values and words that I want associated with myself? Number one. Number two is, when was the last time that I actually sat down and crafted what I want my self-image to be? And then lastly, am I getting appropriate feedback? Am I asking for appropriate feedback? That is, making sure that what is being said is in alignment with those words that are with me. Many of you, I have called you personally to be a part of a focus group with me. Some of you have given me feedback on some of our advertising pieces. Always, right? It is from that perspective that I might know how I'm trying to craft the message. I might know how I'm trying to deliver the message. And that doesn't matter if it's not translating well and then being reflected back to me. And that's where we're able to course correct and we're able to do some things. So understanding and being humble enough to know that self-image is not a silo, but it is something that is a feedback. Our brand is that reflection of self-image, and really being intentional about, is my self-image in alignment with the goals that I have for myself, as well as what are the goals that I have for myself in the next year, 3 years, 5 years, and is the self-image that I am projecting today in alignment with that thing that I am becoming, say 3 or 5 years from now. This is a little heavy first thing in the morning, but I think that it's one of those that should be able to encourage conversation. It should be able to encourage yourself to be able to reflect throughout the day, throughout the week on some of these conversations, and looking specifically at where are those areas. For me personally, right, I'm very much in the thick of this. So we are doing a mood board. Many of you have done mood boards, maybe for a remodeling of a house or for a kitchen or for some other things. You can also do this from a branding perspective. What colors do we want associated with us? And being consistent about knowing what those color codes are. So it's not blue, it is this specific shade of blue. Knowing what fonts you are using, so that not every single marketing piece is just a random template from Canva, but that you are consistent every single time using 2 or 3 fonts that are going to be in alignment with what you're looking for. What images are you using of yourself or your business in terms of branding? And are those in alignment with either your target market or with the narrative that you're looking for, right? So if I'm looking for diversity, I'm not going to have all of my stock photos being a heterosexual couple that is white and over the age of 55 on every single picture of my marketing material, right? There's nothing wrong with that image, but what's going to happen if that is the same demographic on every single thing on my website, on my app, on my brochures, is that's not necessarily going to be in alignment if inclusivity and diversity is truly a value of my business and my personal beliefs, right? So looking at these things and really doing an audit of yourself, I think, is going to be important. As always, would love to be able to wrap up and hear some ahas from you. Remember that ahas stand for associates helping associates, or agents helping agents, or a-holes helping a-holes, whichever one works for you. But understanding that one of the main things about ahas is that you being able to put things back, number one, is a way for you to kind of cement and be able to lock down some things that you're hearing, some things that you would like to think a little bit further on. What it also does is maybe there was something that spoke to you during the last 30 minutes that someone else either missed or they were undoing the dishwasher or whatever it might be, and that would be a really wonderful thing for them to be able to repeat back. So if you would, put some ahas in the comment section before the top of the hour. We've got about a minute left. I want to be mindful of your time, so please put some things in there for me, and then we'll be able to wrap up here together. Awesome. I'm glad to hear it. Chris is getting some great stuff from it, and it is a wonderful way for us to move into our conversation during his private coaching session today. I'm very excited to hear how the conference went, and of course, we're talking about branding a lot lately in terms of how are we facing outward. So I'm glad to hear it. Chris, what else? What else? Let's get 2 more ahas, and then I will release you to your day. I always forget that my people are slow typers, number 1, and number 2, that Facebook Live has, a 10-second delay. So Angela said that the details, right? It's all about the details. Details to help guide thought in creating my brand. Absolutely. And the other part of this is that you have to make time for this. You have to make sure that you're time blocking so that you can sit and just have thinking time. Literally be able to schedule, 45 minutes to an hour, maybe early in the morning or late at night when the kids are asleep and the house is quiet, and just kind of brain dump. Explore, put things on paper. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to be committed to everything, but just allow that process to open up. Look for different inspiration. Look for, like I said, the colors and the fonts. Maybe there's someone else in your industry or in another industry that you really love what they're doing, and you'd like to dissect it a little bit more on what specifically is it that you're drawn to. Right? R&D, rip off and duplicate. There's an element of that in all that we do. So definitely I think that it's there. And then Isaiah said, is my brand matching my expectations and goals? Absolutely. It's a wonderful question to pose into, and obviously something that Isaiah, you and I will also talk about later this afternoon. Good luck on your appointment at noon. Kelly, I'm glad that this was thought-provoking for you. Everyone, I hope that you have a wonderful morning. We are 2 minutes over, but I appreciate it. Union's not fighting me too much. Just kidding. I am the union. I hope that you all have a wonderful week. If there's anything that I can do for you, please let me know. I'm always here to help. Obviously, those of you that are a part of the coaching community, I'm so thankful for you. For those of you that are curious about how this could potentially be beneficial for you, I'd love to be able to have that conversation, so feel free to reach out and we can set something up. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you soon.